You sit in church week after week, embracing the truth of God's word. You believe the gospel and claim Jesus Christ as your Lord. Yet you continue to struggle with pornography. You feel like a hypocrite, returning to the sin you hate that mocks the God you love. You desperately wonder, is lasting freedom even possible? Yes, you can overcome pornography, but not alone. 2 Timothy 2:22 says, "Now flee from youthful lusts and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart." Only by repeatedly running from sin to Christ with other believers can you hope to enjoy lasting freedom. You can live with purity and integrity. Take courage, seek accountability, and do whatever is necessary. Get equipped at accountable2you.com.
All right, so we had full-time David Bonson, on work, and now we're going into full-time Megan Basham on journalism.
She about to bash
On
him.
journalism. Hey, y'all, welcome to Cross Politics on the Fight Labs Feast Network. Have you joined our club yet? Or sign up to prodigalamerica.com. We got some great announcements
Oh my goodness.
coming.
It's the Fight Laugh Feast Conference.
Yeah, it's
this year.
spicy.
It's in Fort Worth, Texas. Go to prodigalamerica.com. The mission of Armored Republic is to honor Christ by equipping free men with tools of liberty necessary to preserve their God-given rights. In the Armored Republic, there's no king but Christ. They're free craftsmen, and body armor is a tool of liberty. They create tools of liberty, and free men must remain ever vigilant against tyranny wherever it appears. God has given us the tools of liberty, needed to defend the rights he has bestowed upon us. Armored Republic is honored to offer you those tools. So visit them today at AR500-500-armor.com. That's AR500-500-armor.com. We're very grateful to have with us again back our favorite journalist.
Yeah, pretty much.
Easily.
If you ever want to come work for free, Megan, just come over here.
Come and work
Okay.
for us.
You're welcome.
Enticing offer.
Megan Basham is key critic and culture reporter who has worked with The Daily Wire and a frequent contributor to Morning Wire. Megan, thanks for coming back on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun to be in this particular bullpen, so I enjoy it.
I don't know if we know what to say.
like baseball bullpen or like bullpen?
Yes, that's what just boys club. You got your little boys club. And
I like that.
Thank you.
All right. So we want to play a quick clip. I know you've seen this clip, Megan, but we've got a clip of this gentleman explaining. Curtis Chang explaining the after-party curriculum and why pastors might find it helpful in this political climate, and then we want to ask you to respond to it.
mm-hmm.
It's tempting to think, okay, I've got to preach the sermon that will reframe everything, solve all my problems. And that turns out to be, for most pastors, a really flawed process, because the Sunday morning sermon is actually a really bad way to deal with something like politics. It's one-to-many communication. It's limited. People are bound to misunderstand even a small thing you say. People will filter what you're saying through their existing political biases. In 30 minutes, I guarantee you, if you go up on Sunday morning in most congregations and you try to preach the one sermon on politics that you haven't been preaching on for a long time, your Monday morning inbox is going to be an ugly scene. And that's honestly why most pastors, or many pastors, don't preach on politics on Sunday morning, because they instinctively know my Monday morning inbox is going to look awful if I do that.
You mean you'd have to disciple
the
them?
challenge we need is to give churches and pastors a way to head in towards healthy Christian politics that doesn't force them to preach this magical Sunday morning sermon that will solve everything. And the after party is our attempt to do that, so that you don't have to do all the heavy lifting, and also, frankly, you don't have to take the bullseye. Right? Because this way, if you run the after party in your small group community, in your Bible studies and so forth like that, then if people get mad, they get mad at Curtis, Russell, and David. They get less mad at you. You can have plausible deniability, right? You can just say, hey, I don't agree with everything these guys say, but I think they're worth listening. That's the classic move, you do make as a pastor, right? You want to inject something, but not have to take all of the shots for it, which you shouldn't have to take all of the shots for. That should be part of our job, is to do that. That's the partnership here.
Yes.
That is so bad. That's the classic move.
This is awesome.
He's saying all the things out loud.
No, do you know how long you have to go to a church before you figure out that they're this kind of coward?
Yeah.
Now to know right on the front, face value. Do you guys have
anybody who's doing the after party?
First visit. You guys have the after party thing going on here? Oh, yeah, we do. Thanks.
See
That's
ya.
what I need to know. Thanks.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all I need. Oh, so awesome. This is great.
So
Are you saying that's not what being a pastor is all about? Maintaining plausible deniability and avoiding wearing a bullseye? That's not pastoring?
You won't be getting my ties.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, no, not at all. I think Jesus. I think he said something about taking up a cross, but I guess maybe that wasn't
Taking
bullseye.
up plausible deniability was not.
I don't know.
What he
Yeah.
said. I think we need to. Megan needs to start back. What is the after party? All that stuff. I think we got a lot of listeners tuning in who don't even know.
Absolutely. Well, Megan, first I wanted to know, did you see this clip first and then have to investigate this, or were you ahead of this before this clip popped up on social media?
No, this clip came out after my story came out.
Okay.
So, to go back to the beginning, it was actually, and I think he's been a guest here, right? You guys are buddies with Aaron Wren.
Yeah.
So Aaron Wren, the writer, and he has a new book out. I'll plug his book. Aaron has a new book out.
We have him coming on.
I don't remember.
We have him coming on next week.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, he was actually the one that sort of flagged for people. He was reading Tim Alberta's book, which, if you're not familiar with Tim Alberta, he is one of the staff writers at The Atlantic. He is very much a progressive Christian, is how he would define himself. And he has this big new book out that's anti-Christian nationalism book called The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory. And it's very much a hagiography of people like David French and Russell Moore and Curtis Chang. And at one point in the book, he talked about how those three got together to create this Bible study to deal with political idolatry in the church and the divisiveness that's causing in the church. And then a curious little thing, and this is what Aaron picked up on, was that he said Curtis Chang told Alberta we couldn't get evangelical groups to fund it. And so Alberta wrote they had to go to progressive-leaning secular people in order to get this funding. And that was all he said, and Aaron took note of it and mentioned it in an essay. But for me, I went, well, hold up. Who's funding this thing? So, I did a little digging, and one of the first things I found was that it was part of a grant funding round from Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors, which, obviously a lot of people are familiar with the name Rockefeller, but it is a very large, very old, very hard left secular foundation that doles out money for all kinds of things. But some of those things include promoting abortion, promoting all the gender insanity, promoting homosexuality in, every sort of manifestation. So that is what Rockefeller frequently funds. And in particular, in this very grant round where they announced that they would be funding the after party as one of their new pluralists, they also said they were going to be funding groups like some sort of LGBT rural leadership group to promote, LGBTQ farmers or something. And a group that pledges to help keep fossil fuel in the ground on behalf of climate justice. So this is who was, not just being funded by Rockefeller overall, but in this very niche, particular new pluralist funding round. Well, at that point, I reached out to the after party and kind of let them know, all right, well, I'm doing a story on this. What can you tell me about this funding that you're getting from Rockefeller? And they said, well, we're gonna add a new Q&A to our FAQ section on our website. So I go over there and take a look, and they have also added, by the way, we're also getting funding from the Hewlett Foundation, which, if you're not familiar with them, they are the second largest funder of Planned Parenthood in the country.
Ooh. Okay.
So these are the groups that are giving them money. And then I went, okay, well, on the after party website, who do they say they're formally formally partnering with in order to sort of spread the word and get the curriculum out. And one of those groups is called the One America Movement. And that's a, quote unquote ecumenical group. And by the way, let's keep in mind, we're talking about bringing a Bible study into churches. So they're partnering with hard left secular foundations. And then also this ecumenical group. It's not Christian. It's supposedly, people of different faiths coming together. And one of the board members of this group, One America Movement, includes an LGBTQ affirming rabbi at a synagogue, female rabbi at a synagogue. And then also a guy who says he's a Christian, but he founded Black Lives Matter chapter in New York, and he defends rioting as self-defense, and he has called Jesus a Black radical revolutionary. So this is who the after party, Curtis Chang, Russell Moore, and David French are partnering with to create this curriculum to bring it into evangelical churches to help them deal with their political idolatry and divisiveness. That's the summary.
That's great.
What?
How much money did they get total from all these different foundations?
So they don't say. And, it's a funny thing. You can go through and look at 990s and IRS forms. Yep. And what they do, though, with this new pluralist project, is, $10 million went out to, I think 30 different. So essentially it would be like they were each going to get, if they divided it evenly, $300,000, but that was just from the new pluralist project. So I don't know how much they're getting from Hewlett yet, as those 990s aren't out. So there could be, additional funding from that. Yeah. So if it was evenly divided from this Rockefeller grant round, that would be about $300,000. But I don't know that it was evenly divided. So
I can write curriculum,
right?
Gay
more than I get paid. I know that.
It seems that we might have to speak real plainly here, because anybody who would be interested in this curriculum is not thinking very clearly. So, Megan, could you spell out why Rockefeller would want to invest in a curriculum inside of people's churches?
Right. Okay. So I can tell you two things. I can tell you what they say is their motivation, and then I can tell you some clues to perhaps some other motivation. So, when I asked the after party about it, I did not hear back from Chang, Moore, or French, who I emailed all of them directly. None of them responded, but I did get, a PR person email back. Yeah. And their answer was, because we are concerned with divisiveness within the church and it's tearing people apart and something along those lines, we want to address that. And that's kind of what Rockefeller says too, that we are investing in pluralism so that we can all learn how to live together in this democracy in peaceful fashion. But what's curious is that they noted in their grant funding announcement that this curriculum was going to be rolling out to Ohio, and it called it the battleground of Ohio. Let's keep in mind it's an election year, and it was going to be free through 2024. So I think you can perhaps speculate that if they're talking about unrolling this curriculum in a swing state, that they are acknowledging we're enrolling it in a battleground where none of these, key people live. And we're particularly going to do it this year, and it's going to be free. Well, might perhaps part of the reason that they're doing this be to suppress the evangelical vote, which we tend to know that, you look at most of these issues that conservatives support, it's evangelicals who are holding the line and keeping really the left-wing agenda from just running roughshod over the country. So that would be a part of it. And look, I think we also have to talk about Curtis Chang, who is spearheading this thing, is a Democrat. Now, he calls himself a pro-life Democrat, but here's what pro-life means to him. He has publicly, when Gavin Newsom was being recalled, he publicly asked Christians not to vote to recall Gavin Newsom. Right. So however he defines pro-life, it doesn't preclude him backing pro-abortion candidates. So, I would emphasize that.
Right.
And then he's partnering with, Russell Moore and David French. And boy, when you think of who are people who are just very non-political and try to stay out of the political fray, do you think about Russell Moore and David French? So,
Yeah.
and also, I think you can also critique this idea that they're saying, hey, we just want to show how within the church we can maintain harmony and love and affection for one another, and during very divisive political times. Well, if that's true, why did they choose for the spokespeople and the creators of this curriculum 3 guys who are pretty much lockstep in their views?
Right.
They didn't bring on like one of you guys, right? They didn't say, okay, let's have a range of Christian opinion then on how Christians might approach politics. They didn't do that. They picked 3 lockstep, like-minded never-Trumpers who have had the same view on everything from vaccines to, lockdowns to how to vote, whether we should vote for Donald Trump. I mean, these guys, there is no sunlight between them and their views.
Megan, what have you had a chance to actually look at the curriculum much? And what I mean, it's identifying, targeting political idolatry, but what does that mean?
Yeah, I watched the curriculum. It's 6 sessions, I think it was, and I watched through the entire thing, and I kind of clicked through the little surveys. And let me just start by saying I have never seen this before. So if this is no big deal, someone could tell me. It just surprised me that after you finish the first session of the curriculum, you get a little survey from Johns Hopkins, asking you to take this survey. And I've never seen a secular hospital or federally funded medical organization ask me to take a survey while I'm doing my church Bible study. And the subject matter of the survey was, how you identify yourself politically and what level of church engagement you have. Oh. How often you go to church, things like that. So that was odd to me.
Okay.
So obviously they're partnering in some sense with Johns Hopkins as well. And so, through the 6 sessions, top line here is that there is very little Bible in it. Things that to me, if you're going to have a political Bible study, that would be very obvious. Things like, okay, well, what does it mean to politically seek the good of the city that we live in? Mm-hmm. As Jeremiah tells us, that might be something you would discuss. Or what does it mean to, when we live in a representative republic, to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's? I mean, certainly we have civic duties. How do those manifest themselves in a believer's life? Doesn't deal with that at all. So it was mostly, I would say 80% kind of not super objectionable pablum, just a lot of slogans.
Yeah.
Things about, seek justice, love mercy. That is a Bible verse, yes, but it didn't really get into, okay, well, what does that mean? At one point, Curtis Chang says, well, justice means to make sure people get what they need and deserve. And I went, that's not how we define justice. There's a lot of wiggle room. What do you mean? Make sure people get what they need and deserve? Because to me, it is approaching, and we're given this definition, throughout the Old Testament, we are approaching situations without partiality when we're making judgments. That's part of justice, and they don't touch anything like that. And then there's a few moments in it that I was shocked that they keep emphasizing that politics are really complicated. And just because you think how you should approach one issue, you got to be humble because it's complex. And anybody who's telling you that they know how to solve an issue, you should really be on your guard against that person. Well, as David French in particular kept saying that listen, issues are complex and we don't always know the right answer. For, several seconds, there is someone flashed up on the screen holding a pro-life sign while he's saying this. Obviously, the message was like abortion, for example, is a very complicated issue, and we don't really necessarily know how we should vote based on that issue. Now, he didn't cite that issue, but visually it was cited as he was speaking. So, a lot of this is very complicated, except there was one issue they don't think is complicated at all, and that is the issue of systemic racism, that it is ongoing, it is current, and Christians are called to act on that issue. Well, if abortion is complex, but systemic racism isn't, and you're supposed to vote on that, where does that leave you?
Wow. That's nuts. I'm going to let you think about
Yeah,
that.
I can't. As soon as you get done,
I'm going to read this ad, and then you can collect your thoughts while I'm doing that. Public houses or pubs are not just places to drink beer, wine, cider, or even something a little stronger. It's also a unique social center, very often the focus of community life in villages, towns, and cities throughout the length and the breadth of the world. We here at Cross Politic hope to emulate that for you and your family. That's why you should grab yourself a pub membership at fightlaughfeast.com. We need you on this ride with us. So pull up a chair, grab a pint, join the boys, as Megan would say, on this ride at fightlaughfeast.com. That's fightlaughfeast.com. And that's how you can watch all our past conferences.
Yep.
Also, we regularly do a backstage portion with our guests after each show.
And audio
and we also got the magazine and audio format
discounts
now.
at our conference, prodigalamerica.com.
Yeah. Join the pub, fightlaughfeast.com.
Gabe, did you have some? Because I have.
I'm still thinking. One of the things I don't really have a question right now because I'm still processing, but it's not irony, I guess, but they're the ones allowed to talk about politics. The conservatives aren't.
Yeah, they're rising above, Gabe.
Yeah.
You don't rise above very well.
But their curriculum's allowed to address politics on your behalf.
Right.
And particularly they have they're the priests. That are sanctioned.
Absolutely.
To be able to talk about this. And they'll do it on your behalf so you don't become a target or whatever. Right. And so and then of course, like, what's crazy is what Megan stated about Ohio being a battleground for 2024. So they're very for Joe Biden being president. That's what that would make me think.
It's very complicated.
It's not.
That's all speculation.
Because it's a battleground for what?
Right.
It's a battleground because you want Trump to be president?
For justice.
Or is it a battleground because you want Biden to be president?
Yeah.
I don't think they lean towards Trump. That's clear. David French is never Trumper.
Yeah, they all are.
They all three, yeah.
So, Megan, there's a couple things I have. My head is spinning with stuff, but I just have to know, what happened? Do you wake up in the morning and, like, do you have some sort of fairy dust that falls from your ceiling that gives you these, I need to go investigate this and figure out what's going on? I know you say it was Ren, but honestly, everything I read from you, I feel like this woman don't miss. Like, what's going on? What's going on in your head?
I have an obsessive personality, as my husband might tell you. I just cannot let something go once I'm like, no, wait a minute, hang on, who's doing this?
Do you need counseling? Do you and your husband need counseling?
I probably do. Yeah, no, that's not. He finds it charming.
I do have to say this. I do think about having met your husband. I do think about your husband because for you to be so free to do this, he's created a space for you to feel like engaging. So I think that says a lot about him.
Yeah,
and I think that's really awesome. I wanted to know, why do you think they chose this place to pick the fight? This is very intriguing. It would seem they would have an uphill battle with conservative Christians, and these guys are all fit inside that category except for one. But why they must think that we're weak here and that there's an open door to be able to get to us. And if the pastors who they are pitching this to are the kind of guys that would actually buy into this, I think they're right. So do we have a problem?
Yeah, no, we absolutely do. I mean, look, already, I saw, right after my story came out, it was maybe the following weekend, a great big pastors conference in Phoenix, right in that suburb area of Mesa. They were having a big pastors conference welcoming Chang as one of the speakers and Russell Moore as the keynote. And, of course, you got two guys from the after party, and the subject matter was politics and polarization. So they're bringing two members of the after party in to speak at a pastors conference. So, obviously they think we can get this in. And I think history shows them, certainly recent history, that the church can be a really easy mark. And, on top of that, they've got the support of the Council for Christian Colleges and Universities, 185 member schools. one of their presidents sent me a copy of the email that they sent out, and they sent this out last August. So they've been preparing this for a while. And that email said, here's this great curriculum about politics and divisiveness. Please consider using it in your student life ministries and in your pastoral ministry classes.
Wow.
So 185 Christian schools. So yeah, I mean, I think, they have learned that Russell Moore in particular has done a lot of work in this area, where he worked with the Evangelical Immigration Table and some other organizations that have kind of run the same game in taking secular money and then funneling these messages into the church. So he's really just doing it again.
It seems to me too that, to your question, Knox, the way this is being pitched, part of it is the political idolatry, but the way that Chang is talking on that video is he's also seeing an opening where pastors he sees them as being particularly vulnerable to this offer. You feel trapped. And I think in the post-COVID moment, you just think about how so many pastors have gone through the grinder because
church is destroyed
because they hadn't prepared their people. The one thing that was I actually agree with, you cannot possibly think you're going to disciple your people in how to think Christianly about politics by doing one sermon.
Yeah.
You cannot do that.
Right.
It takes it's discipleship. It's going to be a lot of teaching over time. You're right. If you try to do some one silver bullet, you might torpedo your church. Mm-hmm. But because so many churches have not been faithfully discipling their people about what God teaches about politics from Genesis to Revelation, they find themselves trapped in this moment. And then you got these lockdowns, and then you got people probably in their congregations pushing against that, and then they got the CDC and the masks and the jabs and all the rest of it. And I think they're probably seeing a moment where pastors are if you haven't been faithful to this point. I think I'm hoping that some have repented and are saying, I need to repent, I need to teach the word of God, and I need to not care what anybody says, I need to be faithful. But I think a whole bunch of them are saying, all right, how do I hold this together and not submarine my ministry? Mm-hmm. I need my job, I need this ministry, whatever. And maybe what we need here is peace. What we need right now is I need a plausible deniability. Yeah. I need to try to bring this up and try to get people to ease up on this, cool down, which I think is maybe interesting. I don't know if you've thought about this, Megan, but I wonder if that's some indication though that the people in the pew are kind of starting to get tired. I wonder if this is a little bit of an indication that the run-of-the-mill congregants are starting to say, wait a second, you made us wear stupid masks for 2 years?
Yeah.
And David French and Chang and Moore are saying, here, give them this. This might calm them down.
Yeah. And I think, look, if you just came through a season where you were outsourcing, important decisions that you should have been making as a shepherd to the federal government, then it's probably not going to be a big step for you to go, well, I'm going to continue to not preach on politics then. I'm just going to outsource all of my teaching on this subject to these guys as well. You've already sort of made a habit of that. And one of the things that was interesting in the curriculum itself was how much it emphasized how dangerous it can be for Christians to have power.
Wow.
And that was a theme through all of it, but it hits it really heavily at the end, where it says, look, Christians in authority don't have a good track record. Look at some of the things that Christians allowed under their watch. And I'm trying to remember what it said. I think part of it was an allusion to slavery, but just in general, the theme is Christians in power is a dangerous thing. So, the upshot is we should embrace sort of our pietistic tendencies, and we should, I think, somewhat feel ashamed of seeking to enact our public will to have an influence on the public sphere the same way our secular neighbors do. Somehow it's not dangerous for pagans to have power, but it is dangerous for Christians to have power. Mm-hmm. And they don't really explain that, but they explicitly say that Christians have a bad track record of holding authority.
Yeah, so I was thinking so let Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, that's going to work out really well. Yeah.
Oh, man. So, I want to ask her another question, but
okay. You want to say that for it?
Let's go backstage.
Okay.
If Megan's got a couple more minutes.
Megan, before we go backstage, I do. You have a book coming out, right?
I do. We're not at pre-order stage yet.
Okay.
We are in. Yeah, so I am not quite ready to tell you where to go get. I mean, I think if you go on the HarperCollins page right now, it will still let you order it, but we're also changing the title. So
okay. Well, just make sure
that's it right there.
Make sure that we get copies of that first. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I absolutely will. Yeah.
Follow the
There's
money.
going to be, just so you know, this was just a little bit of what's going to be in it, though. I mean, I was done with it when this story came up. So
that's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask if this
Interesting.
influenced that, or do you want to throw the book open and say, let's put this in there too? But
I did. I had to go back and say, stop the presses. I need to put this in.
oh, wow.
Good.
So-
Well, you should go over to First Things and read the article. Follow the money to the after party. It's up there. You can just search in their little search bar and read this article. You read everything that she writes. Megan is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Megan.
What is the partisan mind?
for having me.
Understanding the partisan mind, the mind of Christ. I mean, like, this is all the curriculum. They aren't partisan?
All right, if you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
My name is Jamie Piles. I joined Samaritan in December of 1996. We were homeschooling our kids, and we were already thinking outside the world's box, if you will. And I saw a little tiny classified ad about this new kind of idea I'd never heard of before. My first reaction was, that's the kind of thing that we would do, isn't it? And so I finally called the number, talked to them, and the more I asked them questions, the more I liked their answers.